Tonight on CFTK-TV News, 3 workers are trapped underground in a mine near Iskut. A Wet'suwet'en chief shares his thoughts on Bill C-5, and we find out why the homeless encampment in Smithers is still there.
Northwest BC's only television news team. We are CFTK-TV News.
Hello, and thanks for joining us on this Wednesday, July 23rd, 2025. I'm Jaylene Matthews. A rescue effort has been launched for 3 workers who have been trapped underground in the Red Chris mine in the northwest near Iskut since Tuesday morning. BC Premier David Eby said the mine's owner, U.S.-based Newmont Corporation, is working with the province's world-leading mine rescue teams to ensure the safe extraction of the employees.
There are 3 miners that are currently trapped underground. They are, to the best of our knowledge, uninjured and in a refuge area.
The workers haven't been publicly identified, but the Premier said 2 are from BC and 1 is from Ontario. In a statement, a Newmont spokesperson said the miners became trapped following a fall of ground incident that happened in the access way to an underground work area at the Red Chris site. The workers were asked to relocate to a designated refuge station where they were initially able to contact the company. A second ground fall incident cut off communications. It's unclear how long it could take to rescue the miners. Newmont said the refuge stations are stocked with enough food, water, and ventilation to support an extended stay. BC Mining Minister Jagrup Brar issued a statement saying his ministry had dispatched a geotechnical inspector of mines to the site to work with Newmont and support rescue efforts. The Transportation Ministry also expedited a permit to allow heavy equipment to be moved from the nearby Bruce Jack mine to Red Chris to assist. It was a significant moment for Indigenous leadership last week as the federal government hosted the Indigenous Leaders Summit in Gatineau. But for some Wet'suwet'en leaders, the event raised more questions than answers, particularly around representation, recognition, and meaningful consultation. CFTK-TV's Helen Asante spoke with the deputy chief.
In a conversation with the Deputy Chief Councillor of Hagwilget Village, he shared what meaningful consultation should look like moving forward and emphasized the importance of nation-to-nation dialogue built on listening, mutual respect, and recognition of hereditary governance structures, not just elected leadership.
Under and connected legislature, we seem to focus a lot around free, prior, and informed consent. What has been legislated, and it's worth mentioning that BC is still lagging with a lighter version in DRIPA, is still only the bare minimum that we're obviously continuing to fight for. Even achieving the bare minimum of free, prior, and informed consent is something that we're striving for. It should be given. I think consent, or FPIC as it's being called, needs to happen in advance before decision making happens. That is where this bill C5 has once again failed. Decision makers and our nations are facing minimal input after the fact. And the current process, as we witness and connect behavior from the federal government, is taking huge leaps in reverse reconciliation, in my opinion.
When asked whether the Prime Minister addressed his concerns about the elbow-up approach to Bill C5, the Deputy Chief responded with a clear no.
The short answer is a hard no. I don't believe the Prime Minister engaged or answered my question that I had asked in a way that should be fairly simple to answer. This came at no surprise. I'm concerned the Prince Rupert Gas Transmission Pipeline, or short PIGT, is currently Canada's single largest economic development project. And the interesting comment the Prime Minister made is that on behalf of the federal government, There would be no interest in creating support where there is no support. Now, there still hasn't been any consultation with rightful hereditary decision makers or title holders, and at least not for the majority of territories connected and directly impacted.
As the federal government moves forward with legislation like Bill C-5, the Deputy Chief Counselor message is clear. Consultation must be inclusive, transparent, and grounded in trust, or risk repeating the mistakes of the past. Helena Sante, CFTK-TV News.
A narrowly avoided catastrophe in Smithers served as a reminder that the place acting as a makeshift home for some residents is hardly a suitable long-term living solution. CFTK-TV's Kale Maslin has more on the difficulties posed by the encampment in Smithers.
Last weekend, the encampment located right across from Smithers Town Hall caught on fire, and based on what was found in preliminary investigations, the blaze was not started accidentally.
The indications are, rather, that it was intentionally started, and the RCMP have arrested someone, so that's in process. That's in the police court system now. I guess just generally, it was potentially a horrendous event, and fortunately, nobody was killed. One person hurt, some property destroyed. So out of the total potential, it was definitely not as bad as it could have been.
But even with the fact that total disaster was avoided thanks to Smithers Fire and Rescue, along with other first responders getting to the scene quickly and containing the fire, it does continue to emphasize the fact that the encampment is not a suitable place for anyone to live, and yet it has remained pretty much in the same spot for almost the entirety of the 2020s.
We're in about the 5th year. It's a very long time. During the pandemic, we saw a change in the way people who didn't have housing were living in the community. Prior to the pandemic, there were a few places where, like in most communities, there were folks living, rough in different parts of town. I think the change came during the pandemic when most people were told to go home. It was winter, and it was clear that for some folks there was no home to go to, and a temporary shelter was created just on the edge of town that tided some folks over the cold months. And when that was no longer working, when people had moved out of there, folks started to regather in different parts of town, still within the pandemic. So less people out and about checking on folks. And I think that is the first year that people started putting tents up where they are now. And not just there, but that's when the first tents showed up in the park across from Town Hall, and it has just been a process since then.
And coming up with solutions to this problem has also been challenging for the town of Smithers, since there's only so much a smaller municipality like them can do on their own. But they do have a long-term plan with BC Housing in place to build both supportive housing and a shelter. And Smithers Mayor Gladys Attrell also expressed some cautious optimism that with a little help from their neighbors, they might be able to find a better way to help the residents of the encampment, as well as everyone else who is negatively affected by it. But ultimately, the encampment's future remains unclear for now. For CFTK-TV News, I'm Kale Maslin.
Coming up next, wildfire response on Vancouver Island. The wildfire situation on Vancouver Island has been escalating, with dry weather fueling the uptick. CTV's Andy Garland reports.
The assault on Vancouver Island's only out-of-control wildfire began from the sky, aircraft dousing the Comox Lake fire just hours after it sparked Monday.
The beach actually was packed yesterday, and everybody was out with their cameras.
Busy place. Everybody was in the lake watching the fire, and the planes come in.
A local photographer in Courtenay saw the plume of smoke and headed to the lake, spending several hours snapping photos from across the water.
When you were watching them, you could really see how well trained their routines were. They kind of have the same pattern over and over.
It's wild because they all drop like in the exact same spot.
In a seamlessly choreographed display, air tankers and helicopters were seen continuously pouring water on the fire.
They got it under control really quickly. We got up this morning and there was just like a little poof of smoke still, so No more airplanes or anything.
Crews are being applauded by the village of Cumberland for getting the upper hand on a fire so close to the valley's water source.
That is a huge risk to our watersheds that we have no control over.
Just as the Comox Lake fire was unfolding yesterday, another fire was reported south of the harbor city near Nanaimo River Road.
Very close in timing actually to the Comox fire, and we responded again quickly with air tankers, initial attack crews, and helicopters.
That one is now being held, and both of the causes of the fires are listed as undetermined.
We are definitely in the midst of a warming and drying trend.
With those trends and the fire danger rating listed as moderate to extreme on Vancouver Island, BC Wildfire Service want people to be very cautious while in the backcountry.
Especially if you're going to engage in any activity at all that could potentially cause a spark and then a fire.
And hopefully we get through a summer without too many big uncontrolled fires on the island.
Andy Garland, CTV News, Comox Valley.
A totem pole is being restored on Vancouver Island. And although it's not the typical treatment for a pole, as Yvonne Raymond explains, this one is getting an extended lifespan.
People in Central Saanich are taking up an artist's offer to witness the process behind the carving of totems in their community.
I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to kind of be in the community, restoring something that's for the community.
Sayout carver Bear Horn is carrying on the legacy of work he started with his dad almost 10 years ago.
It's wonderful. It's a thing you hope for. You know, you never think it will come to happen, but I'm very, very happy and very proud of it.
The master carver was invited by his son to see the refurbishment of the pole at Helhelic Park.
Traditionally, we wouldn't really refinish them. We'd kind of let them kind of go through their lifetime and then fall down and go back to the earth. But I think you know, it's kind of a little bit of a monument for the community, a representation of our territory and our ancestors and stuff. And so I think it's a good idea to kind of keep it revitalized and keep it clean and nice.
Bear's peeling back a new layer of wood on the design for the district until July 31st. Then there are 4 more.
That's great. I think he's a fantastic artist, and it's really good to see the art coming back to life.
The Thunderbird and Wolf will return to their home outside the police station when it's done, along with others throughout the rest of community over the coming months.
I'm really happy to be able to do it, and work on something my dad created and designed is also very nice.
Yvonne Raymond, CTV News, Central Saanich.
Next, let's take a look at your Northwest weather report. Tonight on the North Coast, expect conditions to be rainy, with winds from the west at 20 kilometers an hour, gusting to 40, becoming light near midnight, a low of 12 degrees. Over the next few days on the North Coast, expect some more showers tomorrow, then a mix of sun and clouds getting towards the weekend. Daily highs around 15-16 degrees, overnight lows between 10 and 13 degrees. Tonight in the Terrace-Kitimat area, expected to be partly cloudy with a 40% chance of showers overnight. Winds from the south at 30 kilometers an hour, gusting to 50, becoming light this evening, a low of 13 degrees. Over the next few days in the Terrace-Kitimat area, expect a mix of sun, clouds, and showers, temperatures staying between 17 and 22 degrees, overnight lows between 11 and 13 degrees. Tonight in the Bulkley Valley and Lakes District, it's looking a little cloudy with winds from the west at 20 kilometers an hour, gusting to 40, a low of 7 degrees. Over the next few days in the Bulkley Valley and Lakes District, expect maybe some showers and a mix of sun and clouds. Daily highs between 21 and 22 degrees, overnight lows between 9 and 12 degrees. Checking your highways around the Northwest now. On Highway 16, there's construction in Prince Rupert with a detour in effect, as well as bridge maintenance, line painting, utility work, and paving going on. On Highway 37, watch for road maintenance, bridge construction and maintenance, as well as crack sealing. On Highway 37A, watch for paving operations, road sweeping, and falling rocks. And this is what the roads were looking like this afternoon around the region from the view of the province's highway cams. Still to come, how one woman's CPR training saved a life. A 9-year-old Montreal girl was killed in New York State, and her father has been charged with second-degree murder in the case. CTV's Genevieve Beauchemin has the details.
New York State Police have released the preliminary autopsy report into the death of Melina Fratolin. It concludes that she died by drowning and that the manner of her death was homicide. But police are saying this is still preliminary, that they are still investigating. They say that part of that investigation includes the help of the public. They have released photographs of the 2024 gray Toyota Prius that they say the father and daughter duo was riding in along Highway 87 heading to Montreal. And they say that they want anyone who has taken any video or who has any eyewitness accounts that could be helpful to come forward to police. They allege that the father fabricated a story of kidnapping and that he himself would have killed his daughter. There's also information that has emerged here at the Montreal courthouse in legal documents about the suspect Luciano Fratolin. It says that he had financial troubles, that he had credit card debts, and a feud with a business partner. In the communities where the little girl was found, many are in shock and heartbroken. There were 2 candlelight vigils that were held tonight in her memory. Here's what some of the people there had to say.
A child lost her life in our town, and I cannot fathom not giving her an eternal resting place. And if this is where her body was found, this is where she'll be remembered forever.
The father is expected to be back in court in New York State on Friday as police continue to piece together how it's possible a father-daughter vacation could have allegedly ended in murder. Genevieve Beauchemin, CTV News, Montreal.
One woman's quick thinking and emergency training kicked in at just the right time, saving the life of a young girl. CTV's Swida Rassi reports.
Sandra Zachary says she was relaxing at a backyard pool party in Pierrefonds last month when she noticed something was wrong.
I was lying on a chair taking sun, and when I suddenly heard commotion.
Here's what happened. 8-year-old Takshana Ganeshan, who was unable to swim, was in the shallow end of the pool. Zachary says the young girl was hanging on the edge when a persistent bee kept following her. While trying to get away from it, she ended up in the deep end where she drowned. By the time someone noticed and pulled her out, Takshana was unresponsive.
And as soon as I saw her, I saw that she was lifeless. So I screamed, "Call 911."
Zachary knew time was running out.
There was a couple next to me that were trying to help as well, but they didn't know CPR. So they were just kind of shaking her.
But Zachary, who's a physical education teacher, does know CPR. Her training kicked in, she took over, and a minute later,
she coughed up water, and that's when I knew she was alive.
The young girl was rushed to the hospital and made a full recovery. For her mother, who wasn't there to see it happen, she feels an endless amount of gratitude.
She's my hero. She's saving my daughter's life. I need to say thank you every moment.
Drowning is silent and very fast.
Quebec's Life Saving Society says so far this year, 40 people in the province have died from drowning. 5 of those tragedies happened in backyard pools.
When you have backyard pool, you need to have someone who have the CPR techniques with them.
Despite having asthma, Takshana is now taking swimming lessons, a decision shaped by the events of that day. As for the families, it's a moment they will never forget. Swida Rassi, CTV News.
Turning to the markets now, gains in consumer and financial stocks helped lift Canada's main stock index higher, while U.S. markets also rose. The Canadian dollar rose 1/10 cent. The price of gold dropped $46. Oil fell 6 cents. Natural gas was down 17 cents. Aluminum dropped $10.50. In Toronto, the TSX rose 52 points. The Venture Index fell almost 2. In New York, the Nasdaq was up 127 points and the Dow was up 508 points. still ahead, a terrifying near miss on the runway. BC's new public safety minister says she's encouraged by new data from Statistics Canada that show the province's crime severity index last year fell by 11%. Nina Krieger said in a statement that the drop of the index resulted in its lowest level in BC in 6 years, adding that the decrease was the largest in Canada. Among the biggest decreases were seen in violent firearm offenses and homicides, both of which fell by 20% or more. A terrifying near miss at a major international airport, and it's not the first one to happen in recent days. Here's ABC's Gio Benitez.
Wow, increíble.
This morning, a very close call involving Delta and Aeromexico planes in one of the busiest airports in North America. The Delta jet with 150 people on board was cleared for takeoff, picking up speed down the runway at Mexico City International Airport when air traffic control cleared an Aeromexico jet to land on that very same runway. The Delta jet reaching about 60 miles per hour. The pilots saw that aircraft flying right over them as it came in for landing and slammed on its brakes, just 200 feet apart, aborting takeoff.
There are parallel runways at Mexico City, so we don't know if the controller told the Aeromexico aircraft to land on the left-hand and not the right-hand runway where the Delta jet was.
Delta is praising its pilots, saying, "We appreciate the flight crew's actions to maintain situational awareness and act quickly." Aeromexico saying it's working with authorities. It's the second major near miss in just the past week. Friday, a Delta regional jet coming in for landing at Minot International in North Dakota made a hard turn after spotting a B-52 bomber. And the Air Force blamed that private air traffic control for not telling the B-52 about the Delta jet. We reached out to that private company, but they are not commenting. Gio Benitez, ABC News at Newark Liberty International Airport.
Bars, nightclubs, and pubs in Vancouver will soon be allowed to stay open later and expand their liquor serving hours. The city says council unanimously approved updates that are aimed at increasing opportunities for businesses and boosting the local economy. Among the new rules, establishments will be able to apply to open at 9 a.m. and close as late as 4 a.m., depending on the area, while restaurants can apply to serve alcohol until 2 a.m. every night. That's our news for now. For more local news, you can visit us at cftktv.com. All of our newscasts also go up on our TikTok and YouTube pages. We'll be back tomorrow. Thanks for watching.